It was only a practice game, but the Bruins proved their contending status with a win over San Diego State in their exhibition opener.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of Locked On UCLA. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever it's your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. Welcome back, everydayers. What we're talking about today, all we are reacting every segment to the good, the bad, and the final result of UCLA's win over San Diego State in the exhibition. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. All right, let's get right to it. UCLA takes down San Diego State 67-60 in a scrimmage exhibition, a packed-out house at VA House Arena, a game that MICK CRONIN wouldn't play during the regular season, and there's a lot of heat, a lot of hate coming through via the San Diego State Aztec faithful about this game. Yeah, UCLA's not the real West Coast team. So much trash being talked to. Guest in front of the show, Chris Johnson, seeing it on X, Twitter, whatever you call it. I don't know what their trash talk was, because the Bruins went out and led 17-0. They blitzed the Aztecs. This wasn't even a game in the first half. In the first few minutes, boom. UCLA led this game at one point, I believe, by 20 points, had everything going for them. UCLA led this game for the entirety. San Diego State didn't lead once in this game. The Bruins once led this game 32-12, jumping out to a 17-0 lead. You're like, all right, I'm looking at this, I'm reading, I'm listening, I'm taking a look at the stats. Bruins up by 16 at the half. You're probably watching Shohei Ohtani throw 6 scoreless innings, 10 Ks, and hit 3 bombs. No, we're sitting here doing the groundwork, and UCLA dominating San Diego State. That's headline, right? They came through, and they dominated. It was the cakewalk. No, MICK CRONIN was quoted as saying before this game, he wanted the Bruins to get punched in the mouth. Quite frankly, he would have loved this more secretly as a coach. This is kind of the weird backwards thinking that coaches sometimes have. If there's ever a time to lose by 20 and get embarrassed, this is what he'd want. To be off everybody's radar, to lose by 20, so he can go yell at the team, rip them a new one. He'll find a way to do it. But it was UCLA who's up by 20 and held on for a 67-60 win against the Aztecs on their home court with as intense of a practice game as you'll ever see. Listen, take a part of. Look at the stats. Anything you did to consume this game, whether it's in person, listening stats, finding some person videoing on their phone from inside the arena, I don't know what you did to listen, or maybe you're just watching this show. The Bruins looked like world beaters until they didn't, because San Diego State cut it. They were this close to getting it to within, it seemed like a possession. They shot better than the Bruins. They got more points in the paint. They out-rebounded UCLA. So the biggest concerns for the Bruins were what's Xavier Booker going to do? And you're like, all right, so San Diego State, they have this 7-footer who's one of the best, most coveted players in the transfer portal, returned to San Diego State. There's a reason the Aztecs are dark horse Final Four contenders in their last year in the Mountain West, right? Magoon dominated. Xavier Booker didn't have it. Magoon didn't play for San Diego State. Well, if you're like, oh, does that take anything off? Well, UCLA didn't play without ERIC DAILEY Jr. And ERIC DAILEY Jr. is one of those glue guys who I think is sometimes even more important than Tyler Bilodeau is. If you look at the pecking order of this team, you're going to look at the numbers. You obviously DONOVAN, DENT. You'll see a Tyler Bilodeau at times throughout the season, not tonight. There will be other players who will stand out. But EDJ is that guy who, if he's clicking, he'll be okay. But MICK CRONIN talked about, okay, like he had a knee tweak. He's not going to play. I think something similar from what I heard from, I think, Josh Lewin talking about Magoon, but he wasn't expected to play. For the most part, from what I'm understanding, San Diego State played the majority of their guys. But the problem was still the problem. Without San Diego State's main guy in the paint, UCLA couldn't do much. Booker, who is the literal X factor for this team to get further in this season, came out 26 minutes, took 2 shots, 5 points, majority of those points coming from the free throw line, 3 of 5, and 4 rebounds, a turnover, a couple of personal fouls. Okay. The guy, Cronin, wanted to get in there and get more minutes. Steven Jamerson, 14 minutes. He had 3 rebounds, 2 points in 1 shot, but he was struggling to stay on the floor because he had 4 personal fouls. Even Chris Johnson, who comes on the show, the 1995 UCLA champ, those 4 letters, he's probably going to write about this. I'd go check it out. Or you want to check out his story. He's got great stuff. He talked about Stephen Jamerson's probably going to be Mick Cronin's guy to trust defensively coming in from San Diego to UCLA a little more than Booker. Because if we've seen videos on Twitter of Booker just getting dunked on, Jamerson might be that guy. You're going to start with Booker, and with a favorable matchup with Magoon not playing for San Diego State, I thought maybe Booker might do something. No, that wasn't the case. That's not what happened. UCLA looked a little susceptible in the paint. The Aztecs got their points in the paint, got more rebounds, ended up being a 1-rebound margin. But one of those where you're like, that was without San Diego State's best player in the lineup. Now, does that take away from the win? No, because the Bruins went to a hostile environment on the road and just blitzed them. Absolutely blitzed them. With UCLA getting poor shooting from Donovan Dent. We'll talk about that later. You saw different players working in and out. JAMAR Brown went 3 for 3 from 3. Didn't get anything from Booker. Almost no production from the post. Think about this. Booker had made 1 field goal. Jamerson 1 field goal. We didn't see Peoples Jr., even though the audio broadcast asked for him to come in and see what he could do as much as a reserve big as he might be. Bilodeau didn't shoot that well. The Bruins didn't have a lot going from in the paint and the best shooting, even though they kept San Diego State to 22% from 3. UCLA played standout from what I'm reading, listening, hearing, putting together outstanding half-court defense that just kept San Diego State off their game so much that the Bruins pretty much coasted to the finish. It was definitely a dogfight at the end, but they led for so long that the Aztecs couldn't recover. Will this be different in the regular season? Yes, Magoon plays. But don't take away the fact that ERIC DAILEY JR. is close to a second option on this team. And when he just scores 10 points, UCLA's unbeatable. That's a guy who could come in, hit big shots from the perimeter, from the post, from the mid-range, is physical, could have grabbed a couple of rebounds, and would have made a difference in this game too. So don't let the San Diego State Aztecs and their fan base come out here and say, yeah, whatever, Magoon's gone. Cool, that makes a big difference. I understand that. But it's still an impressive UCLA victory with especially how they started. How they finished, I don't know. I'm going to nitpick another bad thing too, but also, what did UCLA superstar Donovan Dent do? That's coming up next on Locked On UCLA. It's almost the weekend. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered. Powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For UCLA, it was Jalen Berger who delivered in a big way last week. For the 3 touchdowns that he scored against one of his former schools, he came through and dominated. If you've been watching week after week, it seemed like this performance was building. It was no fluke for Jalen Berger, who's now on a streak. And just like Jalen for UCLA, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. And with DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season long, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday, keep the streak alive, fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period available through November 18th. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 260,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. They've got real-time inventory and honest lead times to keep you from punting those projects, while the industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. You need those parts fast? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. Part finder tools, 3D schematics that can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Join the free TradeMaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, let's cruise on. UCLA, again, they beat San Diego State. We're reacting. Yes, we are reacting to a exhibition victory for UCLA. Are we hyped about it? Yes, this still cements UCLA's contender status. If you looked at Andy Katz, a longtime respected voice in college football who's covered for various outlets, Andy Katz had both UCLA and San Diego State top 2 on his list for Final Four dark horse contenders. The Bruins are a top 12 team. I'm fairly confident San Diego State will squeak in higher on the top 25. I don't believe they're on the top 25. I think they're just outside. I could be wrong. But UCLA took down a team that will be and should be a tournament team if health goes right, if Magoon plays a whole season. Then yes, this is the San Diego State team you could expect to see challenging in a West Coast regional, in a late round tournament. Somebody who you'd want to see in a marquee matchup. And MICK CRONIN, now that you can go play those D1 exhibitions, said, let's go do it. Yes, it was in the preseason, but it still matters. And here's why it matters. We saw the unveiling of Donovan Dent. The not-so-secret scrimmage saw Donovan Dent put in 18 points, 3 assists with 3 turnovers. One of the things I didn't like for a Donovan Dent, who had one of the best assist ratios in the country, was one of the greater scorers in the country last year in New Mexico State, the reigning Mountain West Player of the Year. So San Diego State, you're talking about a school and a coach and some of these players that had a game plan on how to attack Donovan Dent. This is it. And that's probably another reason why MICK CRONIN won this game. You go on a road environment where you can see Dent try and take charge potentially because he's familiar with a place like Viejas, but he's also facing a staff and some of these players who've played him, attacked him defensively against his offensive game, all that. They know how to game plan against him. I'm not sure they threw the kitchen sink at him, but enough to get him off his game and force him to be a leader for UCLA, where he's probably more comfortable playing compared to UCLA all across this roster. He put in 18 points, had some turnover numbers, played 37 minutes. That's how much it should tell you how MICK CRONIN was wanting to win this game, leading on Dent. And I was hoping he might play a little bit less, but with Sky Clark playing 22 minutes, Trent Perry playing more minutes than Sky Clark, UCLA leaned on their senior transfer in Dent. The assist numbers were not anything to look at. 7 assists for UCLA and 28 field goals. When you have a guy as dynamic as Donovan Dent, when UCLA is supposed to be better at shooting the basketball, the Bruins should be able to score off some good passes. I'm not sure if it needed to be tic-tac-toe passes. A guy gets a pass, shoots, and he's open. That just didn't happen tonight. UCLA 7 assists, 16 turnovers. That is an assist-to-turnover ratio that is so awful. It's going to give CRONIN so much material. He could do 3 podcasts worth and 17 practices worth just with that number alone about emphasizing entry post, swing into the wing, finding the open guy, and probably will get an earful to Donovan Dent. Despite his ability to shoot free throws, something the Bruins did not have last year or even the last couple of years, someone who could knock down those clutch free throws in end games, Dent came in. The idea was he was a multifaceted scorer. He can hit the 3, mid-range, get to the bucket, get to the cup. Well, last year the Bruins had to rely on the MAC attack. Donovan Dent is a lot more shifty, a better ball handler, a lot more under control, got to the free throw line 10 times, and knocked down all 10 free throws for a UCLA team who in the clutch made all their free throws, 20 for 23. That was not a trait this team last year possessed. It was not. It simply was not. So Dent came in, didn't have the best shooting night, didn't make a single 3, but was pushed. I wonder if that's a good thing. I wonder if that's a bad thing. That's just what MICK CRONIN decided to do. Now, where UCLA is hoping to see a lot of production, the second leading scorer, or the leading scorer off the bench, was Trent Perry. 10 points, 5 boards, and an assist. The thing for the hardly used sophomore, last year true freshman, Perry played 25 minutes. That was more than Sky Clark played, but he also had 4 turnovers, leading all UCLA players, accounting for 25% of the Bruin turnovers in this game. So playing like a freshman, yes. MICK CRONIN, if you had a different roster, maybe didn't want to appease the Max or the Andrews of the world last year or trusted them a little bit more than the true freshman in Trent Perry. He came in, got some buckets, hit some free throws, attacked the glass, and got a double-digit scoring night. Helped a lot when nobody else was scoring. It was Dent, Sky Clark, and in a spot where EDJ might get those shots or command more opportunities near the rim, behind the arc. That's where Trent Perry stepped in. Was that 6th guy off the bench and played like it. That's something you want to see for UCLA. Trent Perry, breakout. I can't say this was a breakout performance, but it's something UCLA can utilize night in and night out against quality teams on the road in the Big Ten. The Bruins want to go beat a Michigan State and a Michigan on the road when they're going to get out-rebounded and scored in the post. You're going to need physical play from Trent Perry. If he's putting in 10 and 5, lessening those turnovers, that is what's going to win ball games. And if he's knocking down the majority of the free throws, he's another guy that can just thread the needle with some passes, hopefully knock down some trays, and be another clutch free throw shooter for the Bruins late in games if he has to come off the bench to do it. Maybe eventually cracks the starting lineup. I don't think that's the case, but he will play minutes close to, if not just a little shy, of what some of these starters do. And in tonight's game, played more than Sky Clark. Now, some of the things to look out for: Brandon Williams played 8 minutes. I heard and saw that he was a little bit banged up at one point. Sky Clark, late in the game, got pulled out after a hard screen. Listening to Josh Lewin, it seemed like it was hit maybe somewhere below the waist, although Tracy Murray was saying it's something different. We'll see what that looks like and turns out to be later, because the Bruins played hard. MICK CRONIN wanted to get punched in the mouth, not exactly punched in the gut. He went figurative, and San Diego State maybe went a little literal when it came to the physical play in this one. And the Bruins, already without EDJ, ERIC DAILEY Jr., saw some physical play to Sky Clark and Brandon Williams. Not saying that the Aztecs are dirty, but that's the risk you take when you go play in front of a raucous sellout crowd instead of a coach-controlled environment where you play 3 periods or you play a half, you stop, you start. No. That's not what happened. In front of a raucous crowd, you bring in the whistles, you bring in everything, you bring in the emotions, and the Bruins got the job done. So I just hope Sky Clark and Brandon Williams are okay. They combined, though, for 18 points. One guy, a contributor and expected starter, Brandon Williams, a year away from basketball playing live minutes, and he did his fair share, hitting a 3 in the limited time he played. Now let's talk about some other things when we wrap up this pod. But again, the Bruins solidifying themselves as contenders with a win over San Diego State in the exhibition. What do you get when you have a bald eagle standing on top of a silverback gorilla riding a T-Rex? Confidence. Pure confidence. If you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Go Long. And that's exactly where Rougiette Go Long comes in, right? This isn't just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula so you can go hard and go the distance. The effects can last up to 36 hours. Confidence all day, all night, and even, hey, think about it, in the next day. It's a simple process. Meet with a board-certified doctor 100% online. So if you're ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom, head to rugiet.com, rugiet.com, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for 15% off your first order. rugiet.com and promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Make sure to use our code and know we sent you. Well, the NFL season is here, and the FanDuel is something you don't want to miss. We've got college football, and heck, hey, even college basketball is around the corner, right? Think about this. You got many entertaining basketball lines, and maybe you want to get in on that action. UCLA is looking legit. They might come out and dominate some of these mid-majors the Bruins are going to play early. So check out those lines. UCLA is favored versus Maryland on the gridiron. We're in the homecoming powder blues at the Rose Bowl. Go check out some of those options. And if you're a new customer, bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes watching football and more even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, let's wrap things up here on this podcast. I am probably MICK CRONIN's worst nightmare. The one thing he did not want was to win this game and have geniuses or idiots like myself, whatever you view me as, come out here and talking about how UCLA's got the hype train going. Well, the hype train's for real. I've already hopped on it. I've been going on it for a long time. John Rothstein of CBS Sports has UCLA in their top 10. Isaac Shade of our own Locked On Network had UCLA hovering around the top 10. I know Chris Johnson and Andy Patton, one of the guests of the show we've had in recent months, recent weeks, don't want to exactly jump on top 10 exactly, but they got to prove it. Well, the Bruins proved their worth in a strong win on the road in a raucous environment. Because I don't believe last year we saw a dominant San Diego State team come through and beat UCLA. That's what happened, though. The Aztecs shot a lot of threes, made a lot, and the Bruins didn't win in that secret scrimmage. A couple of years ago, UCLA barely beat San Diego State, took high-scoring efforts from Jaime Jaquez Jr. and Tiger Campbell, and little did we know, it was San Diego State in the final and UCLA sitting at home because they were hurt. That was a battle between two of the best West Coast teams that year in a game that nobody watched, heard, listened, or even read stats from other than from a local paper. And here we are, this time, a not-so-secret scrimmage, and now Mick Cronin's probably, if Mick Cronin had my number, he'd probably tell me, Zach, one, I'd say thank you for being an avid listener and viewer of the show, Mick. Two, he'd be like, Zach, shut up, don't hype this team up. We're not anywhere close, because where UCLA's going next, back home to take on UC Irvine, maybe a lot more of the bench players get minutes, but that's a physical Big West team that's always big, that has 2 or 3 7-footers, sometimes a bit slower, not the most athletic, but they are always contenders in mid-major play around the Big West tournament semis, finals, with Russell Turner, who Mick Cronin's already come out and said publicly that, I just like to avoid UC Irvine at all costs. I don't like to play them in the regular season. That's why you see him play other Big West teams or mid-majors, where sometimes teams want to get contested, and sometimes they don't want to hear the boo birds, and they don't want to hear the groans from the crowd or the faithful, where it's like, why are we losing or struggling with this contender? Or in reality, that's a future Cinderella in March that we just didn't know about in November or December. UCLA, in my mind, from what I've seen, doesn't exactly have one of those on the schedule in the regular season, but UC Irvine is one of those teams that coming up has already beaten Arizona State. Now, was that an Arizona State team playing all its guys? It's debatable. It doesn't look like it, but Arizona State, to their credit, played ASU in an exhibition and beat them. UCLA played San Diego State. They were missing Magoon, but went in front of a packed crowd and beat them without one of their own starters. So don't forget, if you see Aztec fans coming in here talking trash, UCLA also played without a starter, a guy who had a game winner against Michigan State, put in almost 90% shooting in 2 victories against Oregon, and that's the type of guy UCLA was missing in a game like this tonight. So imagine that. Imagine that the Bruins at EDJ. I'd love to see San Diego State at full strength. Don't get me wrong. I would love to see this matchup in the postseason somewhere in the NCAA tournament and root for them, because the better San Diego State plays, that can give this UCLA team more confidence. But I know I am definitely one of Mick Cronin's nightmares trying to hype this team up. And I think with the way they won and they dominated, if you're going to see that they were up 17-0, up 20 points at one point, 16 points at the break, and that caught your eye in the midst of the Dodgers clinching Game 4 of the NLCS to get to the World Series when Shohei hit 3 bombs, and this was catching your eye, you know you're taking this seriously. And I was too, because I was like, what? This is on my feed? Shohei's having one of the best playoff games ever by an individual player in the history of the sport, and you're looking at the UCLA Bruins? Yeah, because what they did was eye-popping. Yes, eye-popping. We can get excited, and we can enjoy what happened in this one tonight. I'm just telling you, man, what a day by UCLA. Some of the guys off the bench, let's get to it. Mick Cronin only played 9 guys in this game. He used Eric Freeney, so that means we didn't see any Markel Alston. That's the true freshman UCLA has. The only class of 25 commit, didn't single minute. We didn't see Anthony Peoples Jr. So Peoples Jr., despite the struggles from Jamerson, who had 14 minutes, 4 fouls, and a return to where he was playing last year, not San Diego State specifically, but he played in the city of San Diego with the Toreros. He didn't get a lot of minutes, and I think is maybe going to crack the rotation, especially like Chris Johnson talked about. Just wasn't the case there. And then JAMAR Brown, speaking of newcomers, didn't really get him some love. One of 2 UCLA players with 4 fouls. Brown, though, played 32 minutes and hit 3 threes. That's something the Bruins did not have. Imagine Dylan Andrews or Sebastian Mack jacking up those shots. Now you've got a JAMAR Brown, physical guy who can come in, hit 50% of his shots, all of his threes, every single one of those important in a game where UCLA won by 7. That's where JAMAR Brown coming in, hitting those 3 threes. That's a sneaky guy that's going to go under the radar from a UMKC, from a NJCAA player to the UMKC to the portal. Then Mick Cronin's going to work through the weeds and find that championship-like player. That's where JAMAR Brown fits in, and Cronin leans more the veteran guys. He leans the, 5th year, whatever senior he's getting, with the JUCO year applied to some of these D1 transfers, and then go Sky Clark, Bilodeau, Dent, and Booker over getting Trent Perry the start with ERIC DAILEY Jr. out. That just tells you where Cronin trusts the older guys, and maybe, say someone's out later, he might go Trent Perry, but the first guy off the bench is the former McDonald's All-American, and he had a good game. Okay? Got to shout out Sky Clark, 13 points, 4 rebounds in 22 minutes. You hope Williams and Brandon Williams and Clark are okay after getting a little bit beat up at the end of this one. In the end, UCLA 67 shut up those San Diego State Aztec fans with their 60 points, getting blitzed off the opening tip. How are you not ready to play? Let me tell you. The Bruins forced 21 turnovers. The MICK CRONIN card, the hustle bone, who had deflections, that is going to be something he will praise again and again. He still might attack the fact that they had 26 paint points in this one, close to 50% of their points. It's just the fact that they couldn't shoot from the perimeter of the Aztecs, didn't get to the line as much as UCLA did, and most importantly, the Bruins forced turnovers and led to a lot of points off turnovers. UCLA, 22 points off turnovers. That is a MICK CRONIN team if you've ever seen one. He built this team. He didn't build this city, but MICK CRONIN, he built this team, and this is exactly how they're going to play. Exciting, dent, some acrobatic plays. Hopefully we'll make better moves. But remember, this is a team that's seen him before plenty of times throughout his collegiate career already. In just game one, in a raucous environment, in just a practice game. Bam! Go Bruins! Hands up, Bruins fans. A-clap time, baby. Next time I'll talk to you, I'll be reacting to the UCLA game versus Maryland. Homecoming Powder Blues. We will be excited. Looking for that third straight win. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA. Fight, fight, fight. UCLA. Let's go. Basketball season's close upon us. I know it's mid-October, but believe in the Bruins this year. MICK CRONIN's got a good one. Can they shore up the post? Well, we've got a lot of shows to talk about it. Stay tuned. Like, comment, subscribe, download Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.